Good evening. The mother of Hull student Libby Squire has told MPs her daughter's murderer could have been stopped in his tracks if there had been earlier intervention. Lisa Squire was in Westminster as part of her campaign for tougher sentences for sexual offences where there was no physical contact.
Pavel Relevich is in prison on a life sentence for raping and murdering Libby in 2019. But before that, he had a history of stealing women's underwear and exposing himself to them. Here's our political correspondent Sharon-Preet Kaira.
5 years after Libby Squire was murdered, this is how her mum wants her to be remembered.
She was amazing. She was a great daughter, an amazing big sister. She was very funny, really funny, and loved being around family.
All that was cut short on the 1st of February 2019, when Libby was raped and murdered by Pavel Relevich, a serial sexual offender. Some of his crimes were only reported and admitted after Libby had died, including 4 charges of voyeurism, 3 of burglary and 2 of outraging public decency committed in the days leading up to Libby's murder. Today, Libby's mum, Lisa, told MPs those offences should have been seen as red flags.
I could see a link between his offending and then the eventual rape and murder of my daughter. And over the 18 months prior to her dying, he had escalated massively. And nobody seemed to know anything about it.
In the days before Libby's body was found in the River Humber, Relevich's string of offences helped Lisa piece together what had happened to her daughter.
I had an answer that he was a non-contact sexual offender, and the likelihood was that he had taken her to the park to offend against her. It made me feel really sick, and fearful, really fearful, but almost answered a few questions that I had.
Is there any part of you that thinks that if Libby's murderer's crimes had been spotted, if all of the pieces of the puzzle had been put together, things might be different?
Yes, I think if all the pieces of the puzzle had been put together, then yeah, I think they could have been different. To me, it stands to reason that, if a offender starts off with a so-called lower level one to get the same thrill, he's going to keep escalating, and that was really obvious in Libby's case.
Now Lisa visits schools educating girls about the importance of reporting non-contact sexual offences, something she told MPs should be taught across the country.
It's not okay for men, and most normal men don't do this, so I'm not tarring all men with the same brush, because 99.9% of men are wonderful. But yeah, I think we've just been conditioned from our mothers and their mothers and their mothers. It's just something that happens.
From her community to the Commons, Lisa's campaign continues, ensuring her daughter's legacy is one of change.
What do you think Libby would think, seeing you coming to Westminster and carrying on this fight in her name?
She would be saying, for goodness sake, mother. She'd think it was really funny, but I think she'd be really proud. And it's my way of still doing things for her, isn't it? I know for a fact if she had seen a woman being attacked, she wouldn't think about her own safety. She would wade in there and help that woman. Yeah, I think she'd be pleased. I really think she'd be pleased.
Lisa Squire, Libby's mum, ending that report. And let's hear more from Sharon-Preet now at Westminster. Sharon-Preet, I've met Lisa, and she's a very, very strong and courageous woman, there's no doubt about it. What's next for her campaign, do you think?
Well, Ian, the committee that Lisa was talking to today is carrying out an inquiry into these sorts of non-contact sexual offences, things like indecent exposure, stalking, where no physical touch is involved, but they can still have a catastrophic effect. The chair of that committee, Dame Diana Johnson, joins me now. Tell me, what can be done to prevent these sorts of sexual offences?
Well, I think, first of all, you're absolutely right. Whilst there's no direct contact, it can cause enormous harm. So I think it's really important to think about prevention in the first place, so educating boys particularly about how indecent exposure can cause real harm and distress to girls and women. But also it's about a societal change and recognising that certain behaviours are not acceptable. I know the Home Office are doing some work on this already to try and get men, boys, youths to actually call each other out when they're doing things that are inappropriate. So things like that are important, but also the But getting it reported and the police having access to information about what's going on and then bringing perpetrators to court is another key issue.
Lisa thinks that perpetrators should also be offered therapy. Do you think that that could help?
I think both Lisa and I agree that just taking someone to court and then perhaps fining them isn't enough. They need to have support, therapy, they need something, some intervention early on. We also discussed whether they should be put on the sex offender register to acknowledge that there is a problem. Now that's obviously needs to be looked at, but that's another option to keep an eye on these people or these men and to see what they're actually doing and whether they carry on offending.
That's great, Diana Johnson, thank you very much. Well, Lisa Squire knows that changing the law is no small task, it takes time, but 5 years after her daughter Libby's death, she's determined not to give up.
Sharon Piquera reporting there from Westminster, thank you.